Doug Nelson, please.
All right. Are we still waiting for, got one more? Okay. Madam Chair and committee members, thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of Natchez Valley School District. My name is Patty Hyatt and I'm the board chair for Natchez Valley School Board. I've signed in as other today. Well, we support efforts to ease the restrictions of the existing levy limits, and this bill does provide some small relief for our district. This is still a long ways away from providing significant help for our situation. Our district is one of many who are on the losing side of the McCleary fix. The size of our district is 928 square miles and encompasses White Pass and Chinook Pass. We have a lot of land, but not a lot of taxpayers. We also do not have many commercial businesses in our district. Our taxpayers made the decision to support our kids when they approved our levy at $3.50 per thousand. We have always had to pay more taxes in order for our kids to have quality teachers and receive a quality education. We must cut $1.4 million out of our budget for next year. This is 8% of our total budget. Over the next 4 years, we will be cutting a total of $2.3 million to be able to live within this new revenue picture. Currently, our school district has 1,205 FTE. We are one elementary, one middle, and one high school. The cuts on the table are over $1 million in staffing and approximately $400,000 in service, curriculum, athletics, and field trips.
Good afternoon. I'm Wanda Messinger, Director of Business and Operations at Natchez Valley School District. To continue from what Patty was saying, we are aware that legislators feel that we as a school board gave away all the money. Without a salary schedule in place, we held out on our negotiations to see what our surrounding districts were settling on. Our teachers knew we were going to have to cut, so they agreed to less than what the surrounding districts had agreed upon while still trying to be somewhat comparable with the other districts. This will drastically impact our ability to retain and attract quality teachers. We did not give it all away. The consequences of the existing language has put us in this predicament. Most of our levy was used to hire additional teachers above the prototypical model, offer more opportunities, and lower class sizes. We are expected to provide more education and meet other mandates, but are not provided more resources to do so. In fact, our resources are actually being unnecessarily restricted. Our taxpayers were and still are willing to pay more to offer our students a better education. We're being told to make do with less while those around us have more. Proposed substitute Senate Bill 5313 takes baby steps to ease our plight. As it's written, it would allow us to collect $325,000 more of our voted levy revenue in 1920. That still leaves us with $1.1 million to cut, and we likely won't be eligible for the LEA hold harmless because of the threshold in the language. A key flaw in both the existing levy limitations and the limitations in this bill is that some districts can collect up to $3,000 a student, while others like us can only collect up to $2,100, and that's with the help of LEA. This is not fair and it's not equitable. Thank you for your investment in K-12.
Thank you.
Senator Frock, members of the committee, for the record, Doug Nelson representing public school employees of Washington and our 32,000 classified employees we represent in 178 school districts across the state. We're in support of this legislation because of one simple fact. School districts fund 30% of basic education classified employees in their local levy. So guess what's happening right now as I speak? There are layoff negotiations going on and threatened layoffs around the state. I know that because I'm in charge of all of our negotiations and we're prepping for layoffs of classified employees. And that's one of the things that you missed with McCleary is that 30% of basic education classified employees are funded through the local levy. And that's 5,000 FTEs. And we missed it in McCleary. We were advocating for it, but it wasn't fixed. So when levies are ratcheted down locally, guess what happens to the members I represent? And we're not the sexy employees. We're not the teachers, counselors, nurses. We're the employees who do the custodial work, the maintenance work, and so the secretaries. So we're being threatened with cuts, and we're asking you to fix it because it certainly doesn't work for the support staff. Thank you.
Questions? I have a brief one, Doug. Could you just comment on the SEB, the healthcare situation? If we do it as it's currently constructed, my understanding is it will drive some additional local costs for districts. I'm sure you're into that. So are those paid out of local funds or something else?
Well, it actually focuses the issue of the locally funded basic education classified employees that were missed in the McCleary fix.
Okay.
It is a larger issue for classified employees than certificated or administrative staff, simply because we don't staff classified employees according to the prototypical school. School district staff on the prototypical school for certificated and administrative staff, but they're way over on classified employees. And so, yes, when the SEB costs come in, there are some local costs that school districts have to absorb because they are so overstaffed in basic education. Some of the other programs can be funded, child nutrition services through price of lunch and that type of thing, but it's the BEA classified employees who were missed in McCleary that are going to be the additional cost.
Thank you very much. Next panel, we'll call up Neil Kirby, Melissa Gomboski, and Sandy Hayes. Go right ahead, Melissa, whenever you're ready.
Senator Frocht, honorable members of the committee, I'm Melissa Gomboski here today on behalf of Evergreen, Vancouver, and Spokane Public Schools. First of all, I'd like to begin by thanking you for the significant investment in public education the legislature has made over the last few years. We recognize that the work of finding predictable and sustainable funding for all 295 school districts is a very difficult task. We also recognize that the policy that's in front of you today does help some school districts. However, this levy policy, as it is now drafted, is harmful to Spokane, Evergreen, and Vancouver, and we think that it exacerbates the inequity of funding in schools. And it is for this reason that we are now opposed to Senate Bill 5313 in its current form. All three of the districts that I mentioned have recently gone to their local communities to ask for the $1.50 levy. They followed the law and the direction that you provided in the original McCleary bill. They asked their voters to pass a local enrichment levy at the rate of $1.50, as is law. Now this policy would penalize those districts by lowering the levy equalization rate if they keep that commitment to voters. Or they would be asked to go back out to voters to ask for additional levy dollars. And we're not sure how our communities would respond to that. So we would ask for you respectfully to adjust the LEA rate and to not penalize these districts. We would stand ready to work with you if this policy moves forward. We thank you for your consideration of our concerns.
Hi. Thank you, Senator Frocht and members of the committee. I serve on the North Shore School Board as well as the WASDA Legislative Committee. I have signed in as others. First of all, I'd just like to thank you for continuing to wrestle with this 40, 50-year-old problem, and I'm sure this afternoon we'll come up with a solution here. North Shore School District, I believe, represents the complexity of this issue. We are currently capped at $1.50. We are considered a property poor district, even though we are Canmore, Bothell, and Woodinville. I know you've got people looking at me like I'm nuts, but that's because we have no commercial businesses in our district. We did ask for a EP&O levy that would, if approved, allow us to collect $2,500, but we're currently capped at $1.50, which puts us collecting $700 less per student than most of our boundary districts. And it does not cost less in our district, and we are not paying less for our teachers. We would like to be able to collect that $2,400 or $2,500. That would allow us to bring in an additional $1,300, which coincidentally is almost exactly what we spend out of our local levy on special ed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandy. Please.
Hi, Chair, members of the committee. I actually came in, I saw your last version before this new version came out, and that's what I thought I was testifying to. And so, but I am still going to testify. I like the concept of the 20% levy based on a base funding formula, and with one exception, that the formula left the last 10% of the proposed 20% levy limit unequalized. If you know, and this system, everything I'm hearing today is just so filled with gross inequities between school districts, and that's so unfair. Whereas if you had a 20% levy limit like you did in your previous proposal, and you equalized the last half of it like you would the first half, then every school district in the state would have the capacity of passing that 20% levy with under a $2 per thousand tax rate. And what would be more fair than to have every school district with the same tax rate getting the same per student fundings for their schools? Every school district in the state has all the same issues that any of these school districts have shared with you today on special ed and all the other services, transportation, school class size, ELL. They're all there in every school district. And to not have equitable funding for every school district in this state just seems like you're setting yourself up for an equity lawsuit based on a different clause in the Constitution besides the adequate funding section of that Constitution. So.
We're supposed to be a lawsuit-free zone here for testimony, but thank you for bringing that up. All right, we'll move on. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you for your testimony. Sir, your name for the record?
Neil Kirby.
Okay. Genius. Lori Stanton, Robert Westfield, and Liv Finney. Yes.
That's Neil. Yeah. Who here doesn't know, hasn't heard from you?
Senator Frocht and committee, thank you for having this second hearing on this levy bill. I am Lori Stanton. I am on the school board for White Salmon Valley School Districts. We are a small rural district of just under 1,300 students. Because of the levy cap, we face a $1.2 million loss in levy revenue, and that's very small compared to many of the districts you've heard from. But I'd like to illustrate what 1.2 million means to my district. In the next school year, 1920, we drain our fund balance, and I know I'm not saying we are going to, but if we were to cut all athletics, if we were to cut every sport that we have in our district, and then we also cut all of our clubs, all extracurriculars, everything across the board, that would amount to $275,000. So we still have $975,000 left to cut just as a result of the levy cap. We are in favor of this bill only because it is the only bill that will keep us from bankruptcy in 2021. In 2021, we will be insolvent. This bill will keep us out of bankruptcy, but we will still be facing...
What's your total budget?
18 million as of now. Lots of great new revenue, and that's fabulous, but too many new expenditures and loss of levy are going to shut our doors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Bob Weisfield. Mr. Chairman, thank you for being here. I'm from White Salmon as well, Senator Honeyford. I've met you in the past. I'm a retired judge of 37 years in White Salmon, Washington, and I wondered what I would possibly say to you that would make any difference in a minute and a half. The difference would be, as I sentenced somebody to jail, I thought, you know, for every year this person is in jail, it's going to cost the state $40,000 to $50,000 to house them, something along that line. Maybe it's even more now because I've been retired for a while. But I thought, wouldn't it be smarter and better use of money if we put this into schools, had these kids involved in activities, immediately get them when they're young, because we all know that by the time they're in high school and they're running around with bad kids, they're going to be heading in the wrong direction. It's going to cost society a lot of money. So my thought to you would be, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and anything that you can do to keep these kids in school and active is certainly in the public interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge, and thank you for your service and coming over here and testifying today. Go right ahead, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Senator Frocht, members of the committee. My name is Levy Finney, Director for Education at the Washington Policy Center. We are testifying with concerns about this bill because it is like the original bill. It is flying in the face of the McCleary ruling by raising local levies and saving the state dollars. So 2 years ago, this committee worked very hard to come up with a McCleary fix. That bill was, with another passed in 2018, was approved by the state Supreme Court, ended the fight. Now, 2 years later, this committee is considering undoing that work by passing this bill. The bill would turn back the clock and reduce inequity and reintroduce inequity in school funding to the benefit of the wealthy school districts, leaving students in property-poor districts with proportionately less money. Exactly the unfairness problem the McCleary case was supposed to solve. And most seriously, that this bill raises the problem of violating the public trust. You heard the representative from Evergreen, Vancouver, and Spokane. That district went out in good faith, relying on the bill passed 2 years ago, and now it's going to go back to its voters and say, whoa, we just increased your state property tax, and we're going to increase your local property tax too. And that is, this state supports public schools, and this kind of behavior, switching decisions every 2 years, threatens that trust that the people have in the legislature and undermines support for the public schools. So for that reason, we think this is bad policy.
Thank you. Senator Wagner has a question.
Thank you. At the end of your testimony, I heard you say too many new expenditures. Did I hear that? Could you describe what those are?
I'm really happy you asked that. There is a ton of new money coming in on the revenue side, and I'm concerned that too many of our legislators and some people who help with policy are only looking at the revenue side. 2242 came with also some new expenditures, some raised salaries. There is more to pay for, and it cut our levies, cut our LEA. We lost staff mix funding as well, and we did not benefit from regionalization. So those expenditures and losses of revenue have, for many, many districts, outweighed the tremendous amounts of money you've poured in. So it's a false feeling of comfort knowing how much you've put in.
Go right ahead.
So was it primarily salaries?
Was what? Primarily salaries?
The new expenditures that you're describing.
No, actually Levy is the largest piece of what we're losing. There was an automatic pay raise as a result of 2242, and then yes, bargaining did widen that gap, that shortfall. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your testimony. Again, thank you for coming all the way over today.
Thank you.
Our last panel, I think this is the last one, Jeff Odell, Jerry Holstein, and Elisa Dyson.
Good afternoon, committee. My name is Jeff Odell. My wife, Michelle, was unable to be here due to a prior commitment. We are the parents of a 10-year-old boy, Nathan, who is the cutest little boy in the whole wide world, but he also lives, unfortunately, with both autism and Fragile X syndrome. And as parents of a child with special needs, I'm certain that all of you understand how important funding is to us. He goes to the Griffin School District. It's a one-school K-8, about 15 miles west of here, that has around 632 students. And it's our understanding that they have lost around $800,000 in funding, or $1,200 and some dollars per student. Our ask today is that you support Senate Bill 5313, and by doing so, that will begin to restore the funding to our schools so that they can continue to support the needs of their students, both the general education and special education. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Elisa Dyson. I am here representing both the WASDA Small Schools Committee, which I chair, and the Onion Creek School District Board of Directors, which I serve on. I want to say, first of all, that I certainly applaud your efforts to improve upon this bill and rectify some of the chaos that has been created in the education funding system as a result of the McCleary fix. I recognize that this bill does help a lot of districts, both large and small, and that it gets partway towards solving some of the issues that have been created. But I want to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about what it does to a very small school district, my own, and others that are similar to us in the fact that we have extremely low property values and we are serving very impoverished communities. Our current budget is around $900,000. Our previous levy was, prior to the one we passed at $1.50, was $60,000, and we received, because of our property assessment, $105,000 in LEA. Not one penny of that $165,000 went toward athletics or special programs or any kind of additional. It went to fund, when we get to be as small as we are, the prototypical funding model does not adequately provide staffing to run a school district. We have 1.3 classified staff, 0.32 administrative, and our expenses run way beyond the level that is funded through the apportionment. So we have always spent every dollar we raise from our generous community and through the LEA process that achieved equity, and really abandoning that and going to a per student calculation is very, very difficult for those of us that are trying to serve small groups of children in isolated areas. Thank you.
How large is your school district, ma'am?
Pardon me?
How many students are in your school district?
At present, we have 42. This is K-8, and then we serve preschool as well with 6 kids.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Senator and committee members. My name is Jerry Holsen. I'm the Executive Director of Human Resources, and I'm speaking on behalf of the South Kitsap School District and in support of proposed Substitute Senate Bill 5313. With previous legislation in the levy swap, the South Kitsap School District local levy was capped at $1.50 per assessed value. That has resulted in a loss of over 12 million locally controlled dollars that was previously approved by our voters. The loss of this locally approved funding will result in programs our community supports being reduced or eliminated. Staff above the state allocation will be severely affected. Currently, we fund extra nurses, counselors, reading specialists, as well as additional safety, security, support staff, including additional instructors, administrators, and other support. Our district has not been able to pass a bond at the supermajority requirement for over 30 years, and the local levy has enabled us to maintain the day-to-day operations of our schools and their facilities, including much-needed repairs. Our local levy has provided a variety of extra support to our students K-12 to include special education, transportation, and additional response to intervention for their success. Other activities from the arts to athletics will be affected. These are all programs our community expects and have supported when they passed our local levy. Our district strongly supports the proposed Substitute Senate Bill 5313 and urges the committee's support and consideration of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you. Thank you for waiting to testify. We appreciate hearing you, and thank you for your testimony. That will conclude our second hearing on Senate Bill 5313. And we have no other bills for hearing. I guess we will go into executive session. I think we should, well, do we
review the amendment?
The brief us, right?
We can do a staff briefing of the.
Yeah, let's do that. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.